good to see you.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you for having me.
yeah. It's been a while. Hey,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
fuck,
Yes.
Jesus. Because what was it? Was it Feb?
March.
March.
March, and then reshoot. Sorry. A little bit later in March.
Shoot. Fucking hell. Quick context,
Yeah.
everyone listening. So, you and I know each other through your final film
Yeah. Graduate
for
project.
Swinburne. Swinburne.
Swinburne. Yeah.
Swinburne.
Mhm.
I live in Swanbourne in Perth. That's where I get
Yep.
mixed up. I'm going to stick with that. And yeah, so I was in your short film, which got smashed by COVID. Yeah. So full backstory: I had long hair, a real moustache. We did a bunch of filming. COVID hit. I didn't think I was going to hear from you again. Literally the week before you contacted me, I cut it all off.
Yeah.
And used. I wouldn't have like I was like, oh, fuck. That this is gonna suck a little bit. I don't know how you're gonna get around it, but
We've managed.
managed. You don't really,
Yeah.
it's whimsical's not the right word. It's kind of background footage where I'm not speaking or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then we finally get ready to shoot, doing the shooting, and what happened?
An error.
An error.
Human error.
But like, so what was it? What did they call it? Your card, dude.
I don't know. It was just
No, there's a word for the wrangling.
wrangling. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah, we lost half a day of shooting with
The best part.
the climax, the intense scene with Julie and Josh. My favorite scene. So
Was I sick on the first time or the second time?
the
Can't remember.
second time.
Second time as
Yeah.
well. So that's right. Do you know what? So that night I went to bed and I was like, fuck, I'm getting sick. I'm getting really sick. And it was like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. call time. And I lay there just getting worse and worse and worse. And I was like, I can't sleep. We had no drugs in the house.
Oh.
I think it was like 1 o'clock and I raced to a 24-hour pharmacy. And I got everything that I could get plus Phenergan.
What's Phenergan?
Phenergan's an antihistamine, but it's got a really, probably, I reckon, the strongest sedative you can get over the counter. And I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. Give me the strongest one. And I had 2. I have since done that and been comatose for the day.
Wow.
I don't know how the fuck I managed to be there
climax.
and to do the whole scene again.
Yeah.
And if memory serves me correctly, I was that grateful in the end. I don't know if you ended up using the final bit that we loved so much. I don't know if it worked, but we like, oh, that never happened the last time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have like done the same dose of Phenergan again and like gone to like a party or something and had to go upstairs and go to sleep, like
have a nap.
ruined. And then I don't know. Anyways,
it's just the drive.
The drive,
Actors,
yeah.
When they have a job, they're just
you got to do it. You got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about having COVID before, and I've been much sicker and what have you. Erica and I did a Village Cinema commercial years ago.
Yes.
Oh, you've seen it, have you?
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
Everyone sends us messages with
Yeah.
their comedy. But it's been like 4 years now that they've milked that thing. They paid us like $500.
Oh, isn't that the way?
Pricks.
Yeah.
But we, on the second day of shooting, the whole crew, everyone got like a full-on flu, fever, the cold sweats, way worse than COVID, and we had to shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting in this cinema seat, fucking shaking.
Yeah.
Smile. Fuck, it was awful. And the director was down, the edit, like everyone. Yeah.
It spreads like wildfire around,
Yeah.
crews.
100%.
Which is another reason that trying to make a short film in COVID was, for good reason, impossible. But
Yeah.
just, man, creative momentum. I think I never realized the importance of it, but at least for me, for my work,
Yeah.
like just not being able to get momentum. Having momentum, bam, done. Having momentum, bam, done was really like
It really changes
kind of
things.
crippling.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, like, when I first came to the film game, and you start to get like learn that everything's shot out of context and out of chronological order, and how do they like stay in the flow? And then you learn that, like, big time actors and what have you will say there's so often on big shoots they don't find it till 3 or 4 weeks in, and you look at, and they can go back and watch the film and see this, where
Yeah.
because of the timelines.
Well, we take it into account when scheduling. Like, we didn't want to shoot the climax until the last day,
Right.
because we knew that people would be more comfortable with each other
Yeah.
on set. Like, I edited a short film that had a dawn climax scene, and because of just scheduling issues, it had to. It was the first shoot of the film, had to be this dawn climax.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it worked beautifully in the end of the film, but I was just, by the end of the shoot, just seeing the place that the actors got to with each other, I was imagining how it would have just been better. Yeah. So it's consideration, but probably never as large a consideration as actors deserve. Filmmaking is always that pull between logistics and creativity.
Yeah. And when can I get this location, and when is whoever is super critical to this is free? And I was listening to the other day where it was like, it was a really intense, awkward sex scene or something like that, and the actor, I want to say it was Nicole Kidman, right? But I don't think it is. But someone of that level, like that. Right? And a big project, and had to come in, and it was like that scene was the first day. For whatever fucking reason.
Gosh. Yeah. Was it meant to be awkward? Was that as it was written?
I don't know. I don't. I'm just getting this, like, frequency of a memory from a podcast I was listening to. I was probably dealing with bullshit traffic and someone cutting me off. But I remember thinking, fuck, because I knew the scene. God, that would be awful. Yeah. So tell me what's happening then in terms of the film, because it's actually what I would really like to know is how did the universities and what have you compensate for COVID and having to deliver a final piece, and did that drag out your degree? Or
it did. So I graduated a year and a half late, just because we couldn't graduate without
the product.
So so the uni just pushed everyone's graduation dates back until we knew when we were going to be able to submit, and then it ended up being May. I graduated May last year. I was meant to graduate December 2020. And there was nothing really that they could do. Some people had to not finish because they just weren't their lives, so they weren't able to do the degree for that long. Good. Thankfully, not that many people, but yeah, there was just kind of hands were tied. There was no precedent for it, obviously. And they usually every year, after all the final films are submitted, they have a big screening with industry people, and I know like some people up in the year above me like got their kind of connections for their jobs through that networking event. There still hasn't been one of those for my year, so what can you do?
Yeah. And so how did the film go? Like, you've obviously submitted it and done all the stuff.
So
because it's not ready at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to get into it.
Okay.
Because there's just some internal
stuff
issues with editing.
Right.
But yeah, there is a cut that I could send to you if you wanted to see it.
No. I want to see the thing that you want us to see. Yeah.
It's I'm really happy with all the ingredients.
Right.
And it just needs a new recipe. And yeah, my producer and cinematographer are working on it at the moment. But I also needed a bit of a break from it.
Yeah. I think it's good to get that perspective sometimes, to walk away from it. Yeah.
On the one hand, I feel terribly guilty that it, short films shouldn't take this long to produce. And on the other hand, I think, whenever we finish it that year, it's eligible. It's not from when you start shooting a film that the festival circuit you're eligible for. It's when you finish it. So there's no real rush other than feeling bad for all the people involved.
Most of us are used to waiting forever, and myself included, for one that I've made.
Yeah.
for short projects with no money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just,
it's tough.
it's tough. But I think I'm coming to a place where I'm excited. It's an exciting thing again rather than a kind of dread,
Yeah. You
which it
know, that's
definitely got
good.
to over
Yeah,
lockdown. And I
yeah.
think trying to work on it from a place of dread would have resulted in an end product that wouldn't have been
Yeah,
right.
you've just got this veil of negativity.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, good move. Good move. I think Alistair's doing a similar thing,
Yeah.
isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably a little closer by the looks of his social media,
Mm-hmm.
but it's cool that you were able to at least do the university thing, get that done, and then go back and create. Like, I guess it's in a way it's the director's cut, isn't it? Like, in a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Do exactly what you want.
Yeah. And we don't have that hard, like,
Yeah, it
this
must be
many
this.
minutes
Yeah.
limit,
It's
which
the
is,
time thing, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
which is like, sometimes cuts need an extra frame.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just need that.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you can feel it when
Let it
it
seem,
doesn't have
breathe a
it.
little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we did well. I'm happy with the uni liked it. But it just, it's gonna, it's gonna be great when it's
Yeah, awesome.
given the time, which
And what do you think end of the year?
yeah, well, that's the hard deadline I'm setting for myself. Yeah, because otherwise,
That year they just
yeah.
yeah. I mean, look, I shot what was a 15-minute short that I had written, well, I had created, Buddy wrote it. Um, we shot it in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
We're still doing it.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I've talked about it heaps on here, so I won't go into too much detail, but it was a long thing. And we ended up going back once we'd resolved some differences and shooting a bunch more scenes to turn it into a 6-part web series as opposed to a 15-minute clip.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So there's a lot more content, which you always, as a budding, trying your best actor, if you can get more screen time, great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this weird thing where, like, because I'm sure lots of actors feel like this too when you're not a full-time working actor who's sort of done the yards already. You're in a constant state of development.
Yeah.
Certainly, I felt it when I first started as a photographer, that every 6 months or every year I would look back on what I'd shot and go, fucking hell, I got to get that out of the people's eyes.
Yeah.
And I don't.
That's what you want, though.
Yeah, no, it is. But I'm about to release something.
Yeah.
That maybe damages what's now available on my platforms.
Yeah.
Don't know yet.
It's difficult. I also struggle with that. I think 3 years is far too long to spend on a 15-minute film.
Fucking A.
And I think, what I would write now is so different. But yeah, I can't remember who. Somebody gave me advice that, like, that's what you want to look at every past project and think, I could do this so much better, because that project gave you the skills and the learnings that now you can apply to the next one. So it's that thing of just like letting it go,
Yeah.
This is
I did the best thing that I
have.
could at the time with what I had.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because that's a slippery slope too, right? If you're when I hear actors like, an extreme example would be like Marlon Brando or Johnny Depp just hating on their work. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like, I don't know if I believe you because you think that's what you're supposed to say, because you're supposed to be this like artist who's never happy and is always striving for the best, or you're legitimately so depressive you can't see when you've done something great. Because what's the point of fucking doing it
if you can't
if you don't
be
like
proud
it?
of yourself?
That it doesn't, just because you like something and you go, you know what, that was fucking awesome. I don't think that then dictates a lack of drive for the next thing.
No,
I think that's bullshit, but you hear it a lot.
And it's not some superiority thing either. I think it's absolutely essential as an artist to like what you do. Like, you can't.
Too many don't.
Yeah.
Everything I do is rubbish. Stop doing it then.
Just
do what you like. This is this entertainer versus true creative thing that we were talking about before. Just you're chasing what people want. It's unfulfilling. I think you're. I don't know. You see so many like great entertainers who are totally unhappy. And then you've got maybe people like Joaquin who just do exactly what the fuck they want to do. Like, I would even say that about Leonardo DiCaprio. He doesn't look like a depressed dude. He
Mm.
looks pretty pumped with what he does,
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly what he wants to do at all
yeah.
times. Good on him.
I guess those, they've got the privilege to choose, and then it's when you're starting or
Sure,
emerging or
sure.
trying, you have to, I guess, do a balance of jobs that you are passionate about and jobs that just get, you know.
Well, that's an interesting thing too. Is there's the people who stay on with the jobs that they got early doors,
Mm,
like half the cast of Grey's Anatomy. What are
mm,
you fucking still doing on the show?
mm.
Like that blows my mind. Like people who've been on Neighbours for 20 years,
Yeah,
bro. Do you have that? Are you either that lazy
yeah.
or that timid and fearful
Mm.
that you won't leave?
It's
Or some people just don't. I don't know because I think for you to have thought about being an actor and having to have done what it took in the early days
yeah.
takes a high level of drive
Oh,
usually.
yeah,
To then go, maybe they just go, fuck, that was so hard. I got this thing. I just know that to me makes zero sense.
yeah.
I'd rather stop, I think, than be
Really,
stuck on a soap.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that thing about timidness, fearfulness. I'm realizing like lately just how much society kind of pathologizes ambition, and like if you are a very ambitious person, generally it it's like seen as like not an aberration, but like I've just found myself, I used to be very ambitious, and then I just find myself this voice in my head saying like that's naive, that's silly, that's that's just because you were young. And then I think about all the people who like have succeeded because of their ambition, and they must have just pushed that voice away. But I think so many people maybe think that like growing up or like getting older or becoming more um experienced with their field of work is that voice just becoming muted or mitigated, when really like you have to kind of feed it and keep that just incredible ambition alive. Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah.
That's that whole fucking, everyone's a winner. Just do your best. Fucking just chip in. It's a terrible. The the basis of the idea was meant with the best intentions in terms of what's happened to like your generation and every generation underneath you. That everyone gets a gold star. Everyone gets a sticker.
Mm.
It's to tie in what you're saying about it's like this ultra drive is fucked and we're actually not geared that way yet, right? Like we are still reptilian brain. We still need to fucking conquer and own our surroundings. It's just in a different space. If you take that away, people start coming out of, like we were talking about before, how you're making a transition into the full on workforce and working like 5 days a week and full hours. It's a big adjustment,
Mm.
whereas like I was growing up working every weekend for my dad,
Mm.
$3 an hour,
Mm.
so when I got out to the workforce, it was like a breeze compared to working for my dad. But there's
Mm.
this, so if you listen to people like Simon Sinek, they'll talk about how that's one of the biggest um, breakdowns in our young adults now, and this
Mm.
mentality that like a high drive or whatever, everyone should just be like passive and just coast and it's going to be gravy. Is We're not there yet.
Right. You think that work ethic is being.
Dude, I went to the fucking pub down the road here. The guy who owns it is a production designer, very successful one.
Oh, great.
Yeah, awesome dude. Let me shoot part of my film
Mm.
there. And I came over to him at the bar. I was like, "Hey man, hadn't seen him in a while." He's
Mm.
like, "Two secs, get going, get moving, rah rah rah." And all his staff were just standing around doing fuck all.
Mm.
And he came over to the table and I was like, "How's it going?" And he's like, "I've lost all of my older staff who a different generation and worked their asses off. And now all I've got is 18-year-olds who've
Mm.
never worked.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. That's their parents' fault or the
Yeah.
society that they've grown up in and coming off the back of homeschooling and whatever the fuck. And they just stand around. They're not productive. They don't know what to do.
Mm.
Whereas, I just, and that's a problem. You're
Mm.
seeing it everywhere.
I wonder how much of that is growing disillusionment with like productivity and work in kind of the face of apocalyptic. Like, I mean, I know every generation has been through, it's
Mm-hmm.
the Cold War, like
Sure.
all that,
Yeah.
but I notice amongst a lot of my peers just this, real disillusionment with, like, I guess capitalism. And
Oh yeah.
I don't want to say that these 18-year-olds at the bar are,
Mm-hmm.
anti-capitalist for not working, but I do see more and more of my peers being very content with just having a job that pays the bills. It's not their, it's not their dream job. It's not
Yeah.
the work, but they just know that they need to separate out work to be just to survive, and then the rest of their life is just trying to trying to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess, older generations, you know,
Well, I mean, and I don't know that one is happier than the other. I think that
mm,
there's very few of us actually who do find that sweet spot.
mm.
Um,
In this in film, entertainment, arts, though,
in
the
general.
work ethic is
Oh,
absolutely in, like, you can't make
no, no,
anything
no,
out
no.
of success
You're,
without it.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it will never be not
Mm.
that way.
Yeah.
um, yeah, fuck, I don't know. Like,
Which is something I think I struggle with, imagining myself entering industry, because I think I would always want a healthy work life balance.
okay, like give me an example.
Like, I've been thinking about trying to get some assistant editor positions, and or working on sets, and I just think about more than a 40-hour work week in a bulk, like, I
Oh, really?
even if it's the stuff like that I've chosen to skill myself in, and dedicate myself to. I think I'm just the kind of person that wants enough time to have my fingers in a few different
Mm-hmm.
pies. And I think for film work in that way, it's set work, or, editing, you know, projects, like larger projects,
Mm-hmm.
you have your finger in one pie and it's that project.
Yeah. So that's not, but that's more just a lack of desire to be editing more than that, right? Like if you were, if you'd written a feature and someone said, "Cool, man, this is going to take us 6 months to shoot, and this is how it's going to," you'd bust your ass 7 days a week for that 6 months.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's like that. And that's, I don't think that's a bad thing, because you shouldn't lose your life to something that makes you miserable just to pay the bills.
Mm.
You should take a pay cut, be
Mm.
happier,
Yep.
100%, and fill that free time. Like when Layla was born, I used to work, like in the summer. I would open my hours up from 8 in the morning till sometimes 9 at night.
Mm.
Just work, make money. Happy to do that. I like my job.
Mm.
But when she was born, I didn't start till 10:30, and I finish at 5.
Mm.
Like I'm home at 5,
Mm.
because there's no amount of money that would take like the place of. But in saying that, I auditioned for a big like Ron Howard produced show a week before she was born
Yeah.
for the lead. No, I was
Wow.
never going to get it. It's way out there, and I don't mean to be self-deprecating. It's huge.
Mm.
But in the off chance that I did it, it was a very real conversation because it's going to
Would
be
you have
shot in Canada.
would you have taken it?
I would have taken it,
Mm-hmm.
and I would regret that for the rest of my life. But at the same
You
time,
would regret not.
I'd regret not,
Yeah.
and I can provide for my family. I mean, look what was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the
Definitely.
show got cancelled because of COVID, anyways. But
Yeah.
that's a couple of $1 million,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's life changed.
Mm-hmm.
Big show. It was to play Robert Langdon from the Da Vinci Code in the Langdon TV show.
Wow.
So that's
That's cool as.
huge,
Yeah.
huge. So yeah, and I would have done it, man. We both agreed that was the life changing capacity of that role.
Mm.
And that's like, I look at it now and go, fuck, just how wild watching your child being born is.
Yeah.
To think that I potentially would have missed that for a job.
Yeah.
But now, excuse me, work has dried up and we're on the bones of our ass.
Mm.
like,
Watching them born versus being able to,
well, I know,
have a secure
it's a hard one. It's a
childhood.
really hard one. Like the rest of her life could have been paid for,
Mm.
without.
Yeah,
But
I think it would have been the right decision.
I think it would have been the
Yeah.
right decision. I would have had cameras set up in the room and the whole bit.
Mm.
I mean, perfect world, I would have negotiated a month, but they're not going to stop production just so I can watch my child being born, and maybe they would have judged me harshly for considering to do it. But
Mm.
it didn't happen, obviously, and
Mm.
and that is what it is. Do you know what you were saying before? What I think people don't. You were saying about this almost like shit canning of extreme dedication and what have you,
Mm.
is there is a way to find balance in those things. You don't have to be a David Goggins fucking nutcase.
Mm.
You can find balance, and there is more and more. I'm listening to directors and showrunners and producers who go, "No, we're not going to be in the fucking snow till 2 a.m. Like
Mm.
we do it like put an extra day on.
Yeah.
We need to have. We can't have people going home in their cars at fucking 2:30 and back at 6. Fucking like people. You know what I mean? Like
Thank goodness.
yeah,
It's
like you listen.
overdue.
Yeah, you listen to the guys like on Smallville who were doing 24 eps
Mm.
back in the day, and they were doing 15-hour days. And you see like there's so many actors out there who've been doing it for so long, especially people who are doing big shows, and they look fucking worn out.
Yeah.
Absolutely, just fucking eyes hanging out their heads, and it's no good. You don't need to do it. Like,
No.
you know, um,
Yeah. It's an awful, awful truth that most people who do intense set work all have somebody they know that's like been seriously injured
yeah,
or killed.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
this very unique. I think because there's no, at least in Australia, there's no like real regulation because it's kind of project based, right? So you don't
Well,
have
a weak union. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but yeah,
yeah,
the union doesn't go into bat.
and there's no it's not like everyone needs that project, so it's project based. There's no continuing. There's no HR person for 3 years. There's
Mm-hmm.
no. It's just get it done, and there's not
Mm-hmm.
enough money to deal with. And this extends to more than just like crew health and safety, but like allegations, like sexual assault. Obviously, film industry allegations. Like there's just not the
There wasn't that due care and awareness.
yeah, because it's such a uniquely structured form of work.
Yeah, it is. Well, we were talking about this the other day. Might be about to put my foot in something, but I don't give a shit.
It's
We're
your
just
podcast.
yeah. Well, we're talking about discrimination, right?
Mm.
And one of the things that I've found really difficult with, and I won't go any further than to say this with just COVID and the mandating of these health protocols is, if you're going to mandate this, why not find a way to mandate health in general, right? Like just I don't know, like a excuse me, an incentive for being fit or healthy, right? Like
Mm.
75% of the people who died from COVID had obesity, were
Really?
obese,
Right.
right? And our Western world or whatever has allowed this to happen, right? And we
Mm.
accommodate obesity like we do. It's a constant conversation, right? It has been around for ages about like fat taxes and stuff like this. And this isn't trash talk someone who's suffering from depression who eats to cater to that, you know, um, hormonal imbalance or whatever it might be.
Mm.
But in the film game,
Mm.
if I get cast as Wolverine or something,
Mm.
hey, you better be 8% body fat and fit as fuck. That's in your contract. Like,
Mm.
what's different?
I guess.
Like,
Yeah, I guess it's a personal autonomy thing because obviously COVID, as a society, we had to tackle it. Whereas something like obesity, at the end of the day, it's that person's life, that person's body. You know, that you can't transmit the health problems associated with increased body fat percentage.
Yeah, and that is the tricky line.
Yeah.
Although the vaccine never stopped anyone from transmitting the disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
like
Just
everyone's got it.
yeah.
And we've got supposedly got 90% vaccination rate. Anyways, I'm going to go into COVID, but I just think it's an interesting, just more to add to what you were saying about it, this industry being a unique industry with its own unique way of rolling out in a workspace.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, well, you've got pretend sex.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to Jason Bateman and his podcast talking the other day about how I mean, more for the guy, I think there's a saying like it's a lose-lose for the guy. If he doesn't get an erection, the female actress feels pissed off. If he does, then he's a creep.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and he was saying that's a very real thing in the space. If you're a thoughtful, legitimate professional actor, and you panic if you do, and worried if you don't. I mean, that is an interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully now I edited a film that had a sex scene.
Oh yeah.
A gay sex scene, and there was an intimacy coordinator on set. And
this is a
was
great thing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do it without her, but I just can't imagine us having navigated it without her. It was, and the scene we got was beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with an intimacy coordinator?
No, I was just about to say. So my project that we did here, I worked with. She's incredible, Nicole Stevens. And there was a sex scene in it. It was a very tender, and we had another actress involved, and I think she ultimately pulled out because she didn't. And I say this professionally, it's going to sound wrong, but she didn't have the guts to go through with it, even though it was very, very simple. Walk in, sit on top. It's 30 seconds. The guy's losing his virginity, right? Like he's quiet. He's on. She has all the power. But Nicole stepped into, and we didn't have that. But I was very aware that the whole cast, not the cast, the crew were a bunch of 22-year-old guys, and she was alone.
Yeah.
And it was, no one ever spoke about someone like that at that time. And I think it was probably middle of next year when Weinstein went down, if I'm not mistaken. And then I listened to, like Maggie Gyllenhaal, who's directing Juice. Is it Juice? The TV show that she did, and how they brought, and that was this emerging thing.
It's a very new field.
Yeah. And I thought, fuck, that's brilliant, because
Yeah.
then also the guy feels safe too, like that he's not going to somehow do something that's misconstrued as being wrong.
Yeah.
No, it's so fucking awkward.
Yeah.
And weird.
I mean, imagine.
What do they call them again? The modesty pouches and weird G-bangers that you have to wear, and it's weird.
Yeah. It was a gay sex scene of a young man losing his virginity, and we had there was no nude, like you couldn't see nudity, but it was kind of one take. It was very like floaty camera work, which was like, if we so many takes where there's just a flash of underwear and then can't use that, but we got it in the end. But it's genuinely my favorite scene, and it was a scene that I'd been dreading just because we weren't using professional actors, professional,
I know what you mean.
Actors in
upcomers.
training. And they hadn't done anything like it before, but spent the money on a registered intimacy coordinator, and it was
take
exciting.
me through that. Do they is it a sit down? Is it a rehearsal? Is it like, hey buddy, how does that go?
So I'm not actually sure if the director got her for one rehearsal prior, but she, to my knowledge, just being on set doing Conti, she was there for the day that we shot the sex scene, and then basically it was a closed room with just the actors, the director, and her. They ran through it. She talked to them. They rehearsed just with her there, basically. And then she was watching on a monitor for every take. And every take, after it finished, she would go in, she would have private conversations with them, convey anything that the actors felt needed to change or they're uncomfortable with to the director. And she was a trained actor. That was her background. She'd done the specific certificate, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's actually because it's a relatively new field, but everyone wants one. I think there's quite a bit of work with intimacy coordinators, but yeah,
All female.
the ones that I've seen,
Yeah.
yeah, but it would be it was obviously two male actors.
Yeah, that's interesting. That there's still a female on that. You wonder. Yeah, just think it's
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
I don't think we saw any male intimacy coordinators, but it'd be maybe a niche. Interested?
Yeah,
Get a
yeah.
certificate.
Oh, can you imagine though? You've got to see that would never fly if I don't think it would. I could be totally wrong, but if it was a lesbian scene and a male
Yeah,
coordinator rolled up, like
you'd probably want to
get the female one.
Yeah,
Yeah, but two men probably would prefer a woman than a straight guy in there. Also,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm speaking from a perspective I don't have.
I
but...
wonder if we'll progress to the stage where the intimacy coordinator. I mean, ideally it shouldn't, but I wonder if we'll progress to a stage where there's enough intimacy coordinators that if you wanted, you could pick a queer woman for a queer woman sex scene,
Yeah.
or and they have
Look,
that.
you got to be able to
understanding
pick
of
what
sex.
you're more comfortable with, right? Like, and everyone, we are created. Like, to draw a parallel, like the amount of some people you know, comment on how much content there is to watch on streaming platforms right now. But I think it's fucking great because you can watch exactly what you want all of the time. Like I have a very specific. Same with music. I've just got this field here. Don't care about stepping out of it.
Describe your field.
Hate using the word gritty, but fucking, like the Batman.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best films I've ever seen.
The one with Robert Pattinson?
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, you liked it?
It is absolutely phenomenal.
Wow, okay.
It's so fucking good. I fucking cried at how good it was.
Wow.
Just the visual spectacle. I just was like, having been a Batman comic fan my whole life. Like I'm a comic fan.
Yeah.
To see this thing, it was it was so great. And the same as when I watched the most recent Bond film. Love action, love drama. I had a conversation once here about, I'll come back to your original question, but this is sort of part of it. I like intense stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So no slice of life.
Yeah, sometimes, like
Family.
Peanut Butter Falcon and stuff like that was really, really great. Like, but like I don't, it might be easy to describe what I don't like. But anyways, what I was saying to this guy, he was like saying, oh, how much he loved, it was on the podcast actually, how much he loves reality TV. He cannot stand reality TV. And he would come home and just want to escape and watch reality TV. Whereas I would sit down and watch like Schindler's List.
Wow.
To escape.
Okay.
Because it's just so worse than my reality.
Yeah.
And you just have a giant cry, and then you go, my life is so fucking good.
Right.
That was amazing. That
perspective dose.
Yeah, just like the heavier the better.
Wow. But not horror.
I fucking can't stand horror.
Yeah, it's that real human emotion.
Real human.
But the intense scale of it.
Yeah. The one that's hard now is the stuff that's closer to home. Anything to do with kids. Yeah. I'll still watch. Erica won't watch. Yeah. But like Pieces of a Woman, did you see that?
No. I can't. This intense emotional stuff. I'm enough in my real life. I can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I knew full well. I knew full well that film was going to be brutal, absolutely brutal, and it was.
I wanted to ask you: have you found becoming a father influencing your not method, but I guess method of accessing emotion as a actor? Like, have you found it
Yeah, I've
has brought
moved.
things closer to the surface, or
I mean, it depends. Like I can cry real easy. Just not like, oh yeah, I can just cry on fucking command, whatever. So I'm just so good at it. I'm a crier,
yeah,
So it has made something that was pretty easy a lot easier,
yeah.
even more,
You're lucky. I can't do it.
Can't do it.
This play I was in.
But like there are techniques that you could learn that are actually it's just a physical thing, right? It's meditative. Okay, so like there's a great technique which is just breathing from your sternum, and I've seen people do it in films now, and like they just and you sort of push inwardly here, fucking tears.
Wow.
Whenever I start to meditate, it's the same breathing, and I always start to cry.
When you meditate.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I did this big 6-hour meditation recently with this guy called Ben Sofawara, and he's a Nigerian-born, LA-raised actor, spiritual coach.
Wow.
Was fucking wild.
Yeah.
And I went past lives, the whole kit.
Wow.
That's
That's the
woken
most
up.
darling sound I've ever heard.
um,
Oh my goodness.
and as soon as I started breathing, I just started crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, always
How
happens.
did the teacher respond?
Yeah, he just handed me a tissue and we kept going. He's an actor,
Yeah.
But certainly if I want to really let rip, I'll like last year I wrote a little scene about burying my daughter, and filmed that piece of cake.
Yeah.
Probably the most real, I don't know. For me, we were talking about this earlier about what you see and what I see.
Yeah.
But I see me holding my actual daughter's clothes as if she's died. Now, I don't know if everyone else goes, hey, that's a nice little clip, or they go, fuck, I felt that.
Yeah.
And one of the lockdowns last year, I wrote, well, we escaped and we went down to and stayed in a friend's beach house down there.
For the whole lockdown.
The whole lockdown.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was good because it was a week and then turned into 2. And I said, Derek, well, fuck, we have to make the most of this time. Let's just see as an exercise with what gear we have, we can write and shoot a film. And I shot an 8-minute short called Without Her. And that was really, that's a film about a guy, me, whose wife is terminally ill. And she's just woken up.
She sounds so delighted to be awake.
She's not. And he comes home with medicine from the pharmacy, and his wife has passed away while he was out. But she has enough time to know what's happening. It's like a brain tumor or a blood clot that when the doctors have told her when it gets to this certain point, you'll die.
Yeah.
And she has enough time to write him a letter.
Oh.
Daughter's asleep in the next room, and then, you go into the letter and then how the fallout and how he is raising his daughter after that.
Gosh, yeah, you like the intensity. Wow.
Yeah. I do. Everything, always when I was drawing, when I was a kid and painting, everything was always super dark, death, loss, the whole bit, which is it.
Why do you think you
don't know? If you go into this past life journey that I had, there was, wow, no, I don't know. It was fucking, there was only one period in the fucking, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it astral planing because it's not, where I was very depressed. And
during the 6 hours.
Yeah, or during my past lives, if you want to go there. Well, that's essentially what you're supposed to be seeing. And where I was really depressed, the rest of it actually was, I was very upbeat, Egyptian and fucking whatever. Like it was wild. I won't go too deep into detail, but probably because to answer your question more directly, I enjoy The Purge. the stuff that's ultra heavy, and I spill. Oh, hello over there.
Hi.
To those listening to the podcast right now, my daughter has just creeped into the lounge room and is sitting there, potentially,
Like
maybe
a
doing a
very,
poo.
very cute little gremlin.
Baby, you around? You want to come in here, love? We can cut. Let me go and just quickly give her a cuddle. Oh, so I wanted to ask you. Sorry, Ron, we've just been interrupted by my daughter who's just woken up from a very late nap.
Cutest, most intense little being you can imagine.
Actually, I've always wanted to say to you, when I came for rehearsals that day, and you said, "Oh, has your daughter been born?" And I showed you that photo on my phone. Your reaction was so genuine and pure. It was really like every parent. Sometimes you feel like you're thrusting photos on people all the time and what have you. But I've always wanted to say it touched me. Yeah, it was
I can visually
really
recall, like
nice.
I can bring the photo to my mind.
Yeah.
Like it was, I think I was just responding to the
It was a great
emotion
shot.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that you'd shot it yourself of your wife and
Yeah,
child
yeah.
was very powerful.
You're about to get into real trouble now, aren't you?
Snack.
Snacks?
She looks very cheeky. Is she
Yeah,
cheeky?
she sure is. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad. It was genuine. I'm glad you picked up.
It was. It was a really great moment. I just can't focus, baby, if she's around the gear. You are? I know the cord. Just pop a bin in front of it. Um, so before we got on today, you were talking about finding free space for creativity mentally, focus wise, and what did you say? I want to go back over that because I think I don't know if I sort of showcased for you what like this podcast is really about and who's it for. I mean, obviously it's for us, but it's for upcomers that are busting their ass to try and make things happen, and it's really difficult. And I find inspiration from listening to someone who's really successful who did it hard, but at the same time, I'm interested in the guy who's still doing it hard and how maybe they're navigating. But you were saying that you didn't want to lose time for creativity to daily grind. Is that the essence? Yeah.
I think it's connecting with your inner voice and being able to give it the space that it needs to make itself known. I can go whole days where I'm not really connected to my inner voice at all because I'm working and then I'm cooking dinner and then I'm watching TV and then I'm asleep.
Okay, that's interesting.
Maybe other people are different,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, it's a little bit of just sitting still or walking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a certain dollop of, I guess, loneliness. Of
Helps
yeah, I think feeling
big time.
like you need to express something that you can't is a small part, but part of what gets my creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if it's wanting to be authentic, then it's wanting to express a part of myself through my work, even if that's a film that you wouldn't not necessarily say that's a part of me. It's your
So it comes from you.
yeah. So it's a dollop of loneliness and enough time to connect with your inner voice, not doing other things. And I think yeah, I can just get really caught up in, and I also think it's I always think of a metaphor for myself of I really like mushrooms and
Like psychedelic mushrooms or edible ones. Well,
I'm really just
cooking.
fascinated with fungi as a kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they're I'm kind of a bit of a biology nerd, and I think fungi are really
They
interesting.
sure are.
And I kind of view, so like the mushroom is just the fruiting body of this huge underground network of very fine threads called
Mm-hmm.
the mycelium.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I always think of my life, the media I consume, the conversations I have, as kind of the substrate, and my thoughts as the mycelium, and my creative work is these fruiting bodies, these mushrooms.
Like that a lot.
And depending on what substrate I give my mycelium,
Mm-hmm.
if it's only feeding on work every day and reality TV, you're not going to get very interesting mushrooms.
Stems
You know,
back to that analogy of stick them in the dark and feed them shit type thing.
I don't know what that is.
Right, it's a negative analogy drawn from mushrooms that like a group of workers or whatever who aren't kept in the loop. We're like fucking mushrooms. They just stick us in the dark and feed us shit.
Right.
Yeah,
I love
hope
that.
that we'll grow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the opposite in a good way. Yeah, please stick me out there so I can hatch an idea.
Yeah. I think it's just being mindful of your substrate. And also another thing I really like to take from mycelium is just this. There's or a single mushroom. It might look like an individual, but it's um, you know, tapped into this
Mm-hmm.
incredibly large network.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself more and more realizing that the stereotypes of the isolated, tortured artist working alone, are very harmful. Like, it might feel good to be able to be the kind of person that could produce a genius work by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not realistic.
That's not real either. That's an arrogant like Homo sapien perspective, right? Because
Mm,
like, what's really happening connects to what you're saying,
mm,
connect being the operative word, is
mm.
that they're channeling a collective consciousness or a frequency where they're dialed into what is about to happen or what is really happening.
Zeitgeist, yeah.
100%. There's a guy called Howard Bloom, and he was on Joe Rogan. He's an author, he's a scientist, he's a fucking whole bunch of things. But he used to do press or something like that for Michael Jackson.
Mm,
And he said, when you were hanging out with Michael Jackson, you could see and feel that his fucking what like I don't want to say soul, but just like his mainframe was
mm,
connected to a much higher frequency that he was just channeling constantly. It was just this total other like and he looks at it like from a scientific perspective, that he's just got a fucking cord that's just mainlining this other part of
mm.
existence,
How did that manifest? Like, in what way? In his work
well,
ethic, or his?
being the one of the greatest songwriter innovators ever, so ahead of the curve. So like all of that, like you listen to him talk in interviews about his different movements or whatever. He's like, it just comes, and then that's
Right.
what it is,
Yeah.
and so back to what you're saying, like, um, I think every great artist is dialed into something, because you're not. I drew this picture when I was like 20. I was like, what would someone paint or draw if they were given a box of crayons and they had never seen light?
Light.
Yeah, like the idea was that they would was a bit more tortured than say a blind person never seen the world. It was someone who was, in captivity in a black room. What would they paint? What if basically the idea being if you were to remove all influences as best to your ability, what would come out? Because we are the sum of all of our influences, whether it be the influence of a high frequency or constant sunshine or
What you feed yourself.
what you feed yourself, what's around you, what you listen to. That's the tricky part for any modern day artist, especially in music and cinema, is you're just doing an impression.
Mm.
Less in cinema than it is in music, because we're pretty much done in terms of, finding a different way for G, C, D, and A,
Yeah. That I like thinking about it in terms of no person. So there might be lots of people who like this band and this band and this band, which I also like, but no person can like also this one thing from childhood, this one like crazy obscure Finnish band, this one, and even if you are inspired by all of these things and you are taking inspiration and repackaging it, the unique combination of all of your inspirations will be like where the originality comes from as well. There will be something that comes deeply
Mm-hmm.
originally from some spark within you, but it helped me to kind of get over imposter syndrome in that way of being like, all the things I like, no one else likes all the things I like, all of them together
Mm-hmm.
in this specific combination.
Yeah, okay. I love that you touched on imposter syndrome because that's another thing I just think is a bunch of bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I
You've
know
never
it's
have you experienced it?
no, I mean, I've
What?
never, I don't think I've ever done well enough to feel like I didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? I bust my fucking ass for what I have.
Yeah.
I work really fucking hard to have what I have, and I was terrified to be an actor from the age of 6 to 32.
Mm.
There's no imposter when I finally made it. When I finally made that decision to do it and did it,
Mm-hmm.
that was all fucking me.
Yeah.
And um, like when you've spent that amount of time terrified of doing the thing and then you do it, to
Yeah.
then turn around and go, I shouldn't be here,
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, if you're there, you're there, right?
Maybe people who have imposter syndrome, myself included, haven't like gone to the other side of that fear yet, you know? Like maybe
Yeah,
things
but
I'm
it
getting
wouldn't
imposter
happen if you
syndrome.
weren't doing the thing that you're doing.
What do you mean?
Like, if you weren't writing and directing, you wouldn't have this thing. So how can you be an imposter? You did those things.
Yeah.
No one else did them for you. You're
Yeah.
not plagiarizing someone's work.
Yeah.
You did it,
Yeah, it sounds logical
right?
when you say it out
There's no
loud.
twin that you're imitating.
Yeah.
It's you, right? So that's it. It's you.
Yeah. I
Fucking
guess it's like that weird thing of being like, am I worth this place on the global stage? It's not a global stage. It's
but you're not there
a
yet.
very small little Melbourne student
Yeah.
filmmaker
So
stage.
that's
But
that's just straight up insecurity.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. When you
Yeah.
get there, if you're still questioning it,
Mm.
then I would say get your ass to a clinical psychologist and reprogram that neural network that's fucking you up. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you bust your ass for it. Yeah, and I know it's a common thing.
Mm.
And look, I used to suffer. But suffer's not the right word. I like that word. Um, but body dysmorphia. Like I was really skinny in high school, and I was really skinny probably up until the age of 25.
Mm.
And it probably only 2 years ago that I stopped seeing that skinny person.
Mm-hmm.
That took a lot of work. So I do understand having like a bit of a
Cognitive
tick that is not
dissonance. Yeah.
a real representation of what's happening. So I absolutely get it. So not to piss on anyone's parade there. I understand it, but
Mm.
God, fuck, and I think we don't try to let these things go either, or we're not proactive enough about the steps that need to be taken to let them go, you know?
They can become a place of weird security, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And to go back
A
to what
cozy nook in which to bury your head.
you what, sorry?
A cozy nook in which to bury your
Right, right,
head.
right. Yeah, it becomes a blanket. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. Oh, I don't know how to operate if I'm not, that's and that if you want to get to a biological um chemical level, that's just an addiction to cortisol.
Distress.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
stress,
for
your body
sure.
chases it every day because you've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm terrified of that happening to me because I have anxiety.
Right.
So
It's
already
already, yeah. So
it's
now,
there, and then it's like, how do I not
okay,
get addicted to this?
take that with you.
Oh, thank you.
Game changer.
Really?
Absolute game changer. Breaking the habit of
Cool.
being
I'll
yourself.
talk. Let's talk more after.
Dude, yeah. Um, what I went through a weird thing once, and we'll probably wrap it up after this. Just I want to finish on what you were talking about with creativity space and how to
Mm.
get there and what works best, and because we're all there. I was living in New York at the time. I'd been there for maybe 3 weeks at that point, and it was Fashion Week, and I'd had like a 3-day bender, right? The works. And I laid out on the couch for a fucking week, just dealing with, you know, come downs and fucking the whole bit. And probably day 4 or whatever, I was laying there going, fuck, man, you know, you're in New York, um, you haven't photographed anything, you got this new agent, you're fucking just lazy on the couch ordering pizzas and fucking drinking wine and being a prick. But in that time, I consumed an incredible amount of great cinema.
Yeah.
And I came out the other side with a whole bunch of ideas that I'd been jotting down as I went along. And when I got off that couch, I knocked out some of the best photo shoots I'd ever done. And I went, okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that is how I operate. Maybe that thing that my dad's given me shit for my whole life of just sitting and thinking is what I need most to create.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that thing that you can't know when it's up. But it's kind of that thing of gathering nutrients from the world.
Yep.
And then at some point it will grow a fruit.
100%.
And it might not be now, but as long as you're always trying to gather things, those creative fruits, they might come instantaneously. You might see something in the world, get an idea, wow, it's out there. Or 10 years down the track, you might be like, actually that one conversation I had in that bar in Edinburgh about this is going to feed into this now. And it's just like, you never know when those creative fruits are going to form.
Yeah, just maintain access.
And maintain access, and also be aware, I think, of your, like, if something pings, I feel like creative types, sometimes things just ping in there. You just go,
yes, they do.
That's rich. That's something I can explore. I think it's really important to keep note of those, even if you don't explore it at the time. I have documents and documents and things that just ping.
Yeah.
That I just go, for some reason, that is fertile for me. And sometimes I go back to them and they don't ping anymore, and that's okay. But sometimes I do when I have more space. And I really appreciate the fact that I noted it down.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like that thing I said to you that I wanted to talk to you about in terms of a film that was a ping 2 years ago, and it just keeps coming back. I'm like, I believe this would be a really, really great film, and I'm just sort of waiting till the right person sort of, because I know it needs to be a collaborative thing. I feel that in my bones. It's just sitting there, and the reason this podcast started was for a different film that sort of was a ping that I worked on, and now we're 3 years sort of after I first wrote the script, and it's just starting to gather momentum now and finally get a little bit of money thrown at it. So that's probably a good place to knock it on the head.
Certain level of patience, but
you got to stay the course, man. You got to stay the course, right? It's the whole thing of it's a marathon, not a sprint. That serves me well as someone who came to it late in the game.
Yeah.
Well, does it? Maybe if I analyze it now, I wish it was a sprint.
Yeah, it would almost be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
It's so lovely to chat with you again.
Yeah.
See you again.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest conversation we've ever had, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's always all business. Thanks, man.